After the birth of my younger sister, our family suddenly prospered. My parents' careers flourished, and my brother successfully gained admission to Peking University. Meanwhile, I remained frail and sickly, my complexion sallow and thin, leading my family to perceive my sister as a fortuitous charm while regarding me as a harbinger of misfortune. I was sent to live with my impoverished aunt, leaving behind my original home. However, shortly thereafter, my parents faced bankruptcy, my brother dropped out of school, and our family fell into dire straits, while my aunt's household thrived, transforming her into a millionaire. It turned out that I was the true harbinger of good fortune, while my sister was the calamity. Point one. On the day my sister was born, I had just turned 6. My parents were at the hospital, and my brother handed me a loaf of bread, claiming it was a birthday cake. I inserted a toothpick into the bread and, mimicking what I had seen on television, clasped my hands together to make a wish. I wished for my parents to be wealthy, for my brother to be admitted to Peking University, and for everyone to be happy. I silently recited, taking the matter quite seriously. Although I had little understanding of money, I often overheard my parents arguing day and night about finances, and when they scolded me, they would blame my frequent illnesses for depleting their resources. Thus, I hoped for their financial success, believing it would quell their disputes. As for my brother, he was in his final year of high school, often plagued by anxiety over his chances of entering a prestigious university. Sometimes, when I brought him water, he would scold me for interrupting him, threatening to hold me responsible if he failed to gain admission to Peking University. I was unaware of what Peking University entailed, but since my brother cherished it, I wished for his acceptance. Are you trying to make me laugh to death? What kind of wish do you think you can make with a loaf of bread? Ha! My brother chuckled heartily at the sight of the bread adorned with a toothpick. Wishes cannot be uttered aloud, or they won't come true. I relayed the words I had heard on television to him. He scoffed. You must have wished for something delicious. I know you too well. Unfortunately for you, now that you have a sister, you'll only be left with leftovers. My expression tightened, and despite my tender age, I could not conceal my inner turmoil, which was laid bare in an instant. Ever since my mother became pregnant, I had been engulfed in anxiety. This was largely due to my mother's incessant remarks. Let's have another child, one that brings joy, not this burden of mine. Just look at you, short, thin, dark-skinned. You're a source of irritation. She repeated such sentiments for 10 months until my sister finally arrived. Haha, scared are you? Hurry and clean my shoes, or I won't want you anymore. My brother taunted maliciously. He took great pleasure in provoking me, finding amusement in my evident fright. 3 days after I finished cleaning my brother's shoes, our parents returned home. My mother was wrapped up snugly, still in her confinement period. My father carried a baby, also swaddled tightly. Following them was a modest woman, my aunt, whom I affectionately call Aunt Chui. Among our relatives, she was the only one who had always treated me kindly. Her benevolence led her to voluntarily care for my mother at the hospital during her confinement and childbirth. I rushed over to greet them, calling out to my parents and Aunt Chui, then offered to help carry their belongings. Upon seeing me, my mother's expression darkened. She turned away and scolded. Go back to your room. I don't want to see your face. How can you be so ugly? Look at your sister, so fair and lovely. Oh my heavens. I stood there, unsure of how to react. Aunt Chui chuckled awkwardly and said, Ini will grow up just fine. She's still young. 6 years old, and still considered young? She's been sickly since childhood. I'm about to lose my patience. Go away. My mother yelled at me. With my head bowed, I retreated to my room. Just then, my brother emerged, not sparing me a glance, and hurried off to admire our sister. After taking a glance at her, he beamed with delight, exclaiming, Wow, she's adorable. Those big eyes and tiny mouth, this is our family's gene. Xiao Xiao is indeed charming. You can see it even at such a young age. And she's so lively. Just look at her eyes, darting about as if she understands everything. My father said, brimming with joy. A smile also graced my mother's face. Only Aunt Chui looked at me with a mix of concern and sympathy. I retreated to the foot of my bed, curling up and remaining still. As long as I behaved, my parents would still allow me to eat the leftover food, wouldn't they? The day after my sister's arrival home, my parents quarreled once more. The dispute arose when my mother expressed a desire for cherries, but my father insisted they were too expensive, especially now that they had 3 children to support. My mother exploded in anger, asking if she couldn't even have a single cherry during her confinement. Startled, my sister began to cry loudly, prompting my parents to cease their argument and quickly comfort her. Xiao Xiao, don't be scared. Mom and Dad aren't fighting?" My father said, his tone unusually gentle. Once they had calmed Xiao Xiao, he sighed and said, "Dear, we mustn't argue. We wouldn't want to frighten Xiao Xiao. The fortune teller said she is our lucky star, destined to bring us good fortune." My father was a firm believer in fate, while my mother had always scoffed at such notions, often chiding him for his lack of sense. Yet now, she nodded vigorously, declaring, "Xiao Xiao is indeed a lucky star. Just look at how adorable she is. She is surely a blessing, unlike Enine, that disaster." I stood at the door, holding a glass of water, and once again lowered my head. Perhaps Xiao Xiao truly was a lucky star. My father's business suddenly began to flourish. He had been struggling for 2 years, facing continuous losses, yet unwilling to give up, borrowing from relatives, friends, and banks. Whenever I fell ill and needed money, he would roar about his debts as if I could comprehend. Now, at last, things were looking up. "Darling, it's fantastic. I've landed a big deal. Just wait and see. My studio is bound to soar." My father was exuberant that evening. My brother, caught up in the excitement, put down his books to celebrate, even planting a kiss on Xiao Xiao's cheek. What a lucky star. I lifted my 6-year-old, sallow face and smiled eagerly. My sister truly is a lucky star. In truth, I didn't fully grasp the meaning of lucky star, but subconsciously felt I ought to smile. "Go away, you nuisance." My father's business began to thrive at an astonishing pace. Perhaps the lucky star was shining brightly over him. He was unstoppable. In just 3 months, he donned a suit and tie, darting about the city for meetings and banquets. My mother, having completed her confinement, initially intended to stay home to care for my siblings and me, but her restlessness led her to accompany my father in his business endeavors. Thus, Aunt Chui returned to our home. My mother offered her a salary of 3,000 yuan a month to look after our daily needs. For the first time, I sensed a hint of maternal affection. Aunt Chui treated us all equally. She cherished my brother, adored my sister, and had a fondness for me as well. During the day, she cared for us and often shared stories, one of which left a lasting impression on me. The tale of the ugly duckling that, despite being scorned, ultimately soared as a beautiful swan. In the evening, Aunt Chui would return to her own home, and our household would revert to its usual state. Once again, I found myself curled up at the foot of my bed, writing in my diary and perusing books, while my parents and brother dreamt of the future in the living room, affectionately cradling Xiao Xiao. Xiao Xiao is indeed a lucky star. My grades have improved tremendously, and I'm now among the top 10 in my class. I feel hopeful about aiming for Peking University. My brother spoke of Peking University again. My parents were overjoyed, filling the house with laughter and cheer. On the day my brother was accepted into Peking University, my father's company officially established itself, no longer merely a small studio. In just over half a year, he had risen to the role of CEO, and my mother became the business's matriarch. Our family prospered, even hosting my brother's graduation banquet at a grand hotel. That day, the venue was bustling with over 30 tables filled with guests. I had never witnessed such an affair, feeling both nervous and intrigued. Moreover, today my parents were in high spirits, allowing me to mingle rather than confine me to my room. Of course, the primary reason was that I was tasked with carrying Xiao Xiao. My parents and brother were all occupied, while Aunt Chui was in the kitchen overseeing the preparations. I had become quite adept at carrying Xiao Xiao, having done so many times at home. Occasionally, I would glance at her. Her lively, beautiful eyes darted around, her long, delicate lashes framing her rosy cheeks. She was utterly adorable. Guests frequently paused to admire Xiao Xiao, showering her with compliments on her beauty. I puffed out my chest with pride. Yes, my sister was indeed beautiful. However, one guest accidentally kicked a chair, causing me to tumble down awkwardly. I hurriedly shielded Xiao Xiao's head as I fell, and she began to wail, drawing the attention of everyone present. My parents rushed over, faces filled with concern. What kind of care is this? Useless. My mother slapped me and quickly took Xiao Xiao from my arms, while my father kicked me lightly and anxiously checked Xiao Xiao's forehead. I was bewildered and frightened, tears streaming down my face. Stop crying. Get out of here. You're embarrassing us. My mother fumed, her frustration boiling over as she prepared to hit me again. In my confusion, Aunt Chui rushed over, scooping me up while attempting to lighten the mood. Ah, the little one just lost her balance. It's nothing. Everyone sit down. Let us enjoy ourselves. The guests resumed their seats, and Aunt Chui took me to the kitchen. It turned out she had previously worked there and knew the staff well. so she went to check on the food service. I sat on a small stool in the kitchen, facing an array of food-laden carts, my mouth watering. Aunt Chui managed to find a roasted pigeon for me, which I devoured without realizing blood was trickling from my mouth, a result of my mother's slap. Midway through my feast, I looked up to find Aunt Chui in tears. I asked her why she was crying, and she squatted down to embrace me, saying, "Yinyin, you're so unfortunate." Unfortunate about what? After the banquet, my parents and brother had vanished. Aunt Chui, unable to locate them, could only take me home by herself. When she knocked on the door, my mother's voice rang out from inside. "Don't bring her back. Just looking at her brings bad luck. I'm genuinely afraid her misfortune will affect Xiao Xiao. If you like her so much, take her away." Aunt Chui felt awkward. I just brought Yinyin to the kitchen to help. We were short-staffed. "A Chui, don't you have any children? She's yours now. Take her away." My father shouted from behind the door. My brother opened the door a crack, glancing at me with an expressionless face. "We're moving to a larger apartment soon, and this place is going to be sold. You can find somewhere else to live. You'll do just fine with Aunt Chui." I said nothing, but suddenly understood a great many things. I grasped the meaning of unfortunate. And so, the tears flowed freely down my cheeks. Chui Gu, surprisingly, was filled with rare anger as she trembled and questioned, "Is your family even human? You would abandon your own child? Has wealth elevated your status? Who is it that washes your clothes and shoes?" It was I who did so. In the past, when we were impoverished, my mother forbade the use of the washing machine, and I hand-washed everything, enduring the biting cold of winter that left my skin raw. Zhu Wensue, what are you shouting about? Zhu Yinyin is nothing but a calamity, a harbinger of misfortune. I simply do not want her anymore, so what? My mother stormed out, pointing an accusatory finger at Chui Gu's face. In an instant, Chui Gu shrank back, her lips quivering, her cheeks flushed. My father emerged as well, grumbling with displeasure. "Ah, Chui, if you want this calamity, take her away. Look at her. She resembles a dead monkey. It's bad luck just to gaze upon her. It was her that caused my unemployment all those years ago." She foolishly answered my superior's call and said something that infuriated him. My father berated me with venom. I shook my head vigorously. I only said hello, uncle, and he hung up. "Be quiet. You are a jinx. If it weren't for your sister's birth, we would have been cursed for much longer." My father turned to look at the cradle in the living room where Xiao Xiao lay, and his expression softened instantly. "Your sister is truly a blessing. Just look at how beautiful and adorable she is." Xiao Xiao sat in her cradle, wide-eyed and innocent. Chui Gu took me away, carrying me on her back as we walked towards the old city, a distance of 8 kilometers. I lay against her back, feeling the warm summer breeze. And before I knew it, I had drifted off to sleep. When I awoke, Chui Gu's husband had returned from his night shift. She carried me outside, awkwardly explaining, "Dear, Yinyin will be living with us from now on." Uncle was taken aback, his weary form bending further. He inquired as to why. Chui Gu provided an explanation. With a scowl, Uncle made several attempts to scold her but ultimately refrained, letting out a deep sigh and pinching my cheek with his grimy hand. "Fine, fine. You're unlucky, but I'm even more unfortunate. We are all misfortunate souls. Let her stay." Thus I remained. Uncle was a rugged man with a strong sense of responsibility. He immediately set to work, transforming a small storage room, salvaging a wooden bed, and finally hanging a mosquito net. "You can stay here. We don't have much money, so make do. We'll raise you with our meager means." Uncle wiped the sweat from his brow and yawned. Like my parents, he often spoke of money. I folded my hands in prayer, wishing, "Uncle, may you have abundant wealth." Uncle burst into laughter, turning to Chui Gu at the door and saying, "Look at this child. She knows how to speak. Tonight, I'm going to buy a lottery ticket and win 5 million. Another lottery ticket? What a waste of money." Chui Gu replied, displeased. Uncle shrugged and said no more. That night, after Uncle had dinner and left for his night shift, he called home just half an hour later. Chui Gu, fearing something was amiss, quickly inquired about the situation. "Guess what, darling? Oh my goodness, I won." Uncle was beside himself with joy. "What did you win?" "Scratch-off lottery." I casually scratched off a $2 ticket and won 50,000. The grand prize, oh my, money. Uncle had indeed won the scratch-off lottery grand prize of 50,000. Chui Gu was stunned. She asked several times on the phone, unable to believe her ears. "It's 50,000, just wait. I'm coming home right now." Uncle decided against going to his night shift, clearly lacking the inclination to do so. Gu could not contain her joy, laughing uncontrollably, pacing back and forth, and occasionally stopping to embrace me and kiss me. Inin, you are truly our lucky star. Am I a lucky star? Xiao Xiao is the lucky star. After quite some time, Uncle finally returned. As soon as Gu opened the door, she asked, "Why did you take so long? Did you really win 50,000? Yes. Yes. I went to buy a fan for Inin and I also got KFC. Look, a family bucket?" Uncle came in, one hand carrying a fan and the other a bucket of fried chicken, his face beaming with simple joy. Gu felt completely at ease, taking the fan and sniffing the KFC. "So this is KFC? It smells wonderful." I too caught the aroma, and I was well aware of KFC. My brother often bought it, though he usually ate it alone in his study, occasionally tossing me leftover fries and chicken pieces. "Uncle, does KFC have chicken wings?" I asked, swallowing hard as I approached. Uncle laughed heartily, scooping me up. "Yes, several of them, specially bought for you to enjoy. Good evening, my lucky star." I smiled. I liked the term lucky star. That night, the house was filled with laughter and joy as I savored chicken wings while listening to Uncle and Gu discuss their bright future. With this 50,000, I can buy a second-hand van to deliver packages, and the remaining money will be saved. Delivering packages just requires diligence. One can earn 7,000 or 8,000 a month, and our good days will soon arrive. Uncle waved his rough hands as if sketching a blueprint. Gu giggled, nodding enthusiastically. Uncle purchased a van and began his delivery work. Every morning, Gu and I would see him off at the door, and I would always join my hands in prayer, wishing, "May Uncle have abundant wealth." Perhaps heaven was listening to my wishes, for Uncle's delivery job went exceedingly well. The customers he encountered were friendly, and a month later, he stumbled upon a splendid opportunity. The owner of a station in the southern part of the city is relocating to the provincial capital. He said he found me diligent and hardworking and is willing to transfer the station to me for only 100,000. I can earn it back in 6 months. That evening, Uncle shared this good news with us. "Isn't that a scam? I've heard that the southern station can easily make 20 to 30,000 a month. Why would anyone transfer it to you?" Gu was skeptical. Uncle scratched his head with a silly grin. "Wasn't that station on fire 2 weeks ago? The owner was there, and I rescued him, so he wants to repay me." "On fire?" Gu gasped. "Why didn't you tell me? What was there to say?" "It was just a simple matter," Uncle dismissed, prompting Gu to scold him for being so reckless. After some commotion, the topic returned to the station. Acquiring it for 100,000 could yield an annual profit of 2 to 300,000. Gu began to waver, pacing thoughtfully. Noting that we had saved little money, only the remaining 20,000 from the scratch-off, leaving an 80,000 shortfall. Uncle took a sip of beer and hesitated. "Isn't your brother's family doing well? Could we borrow 80,000? Gu's brother is my father." "Sure, don't mention that." Gu cut off the conversation, pulling Uncle into the room and leaving me to eat by myself, telling me to eat more. I didn't understand what they were avoiding. Perhaps they didn't want to mention my father. I didn't mind happily eating. In the past, I had always been cautious at mealtimes at home, but never had I felt so relaxed. The next day, Uncle did not go to deliver packages. Instead, he took Gu and me to my home. "Inin, we need to discuss something with your parents. You wait for us in the van." Gu instructed me to sit alone in the van. She and Uncle went upstairs. I leaned against the car window, gazing at what was once my home. I watched for a long time, but Gu and Uncle did not come down. Suddenly, I heard a loud "Get out." The voice pierced through the stairwell, sending a shiver down my spine. It was my mother's voice. My heart raced as I shrank back into the car, but thinking of Gu and Uncle, I found the courage to open the door and run downstairs. I dashed upstairs to find Gu and Uncle. As I turned the corner to my house,
I heard Gu weeping.
"We only want to borrow 80,000. If not, fine. But is it necessary to curse us like this? Borrow? Are you taking advantage of raising our daughter to ask for money? Let me tell you, Zhu Wensue, whether Zhu Yinin lives or dies is of no concern to me. Do not use her to extort money." My mother screamed, profanely. My father interjected. "Ah Chui, you never sought financial assistance from us before. Now that you have Yinin, do you feel a sense of entitlement? Remember, it was your own choice to take Yinin away. We did not compel you." I pressed myself against the corner, tears streaming down my cheeks once again. Ultimately, my uncle hoarsely declared, "Then we shall not lend you anything. Let us go." He pulled my aunt away, and as they walked a few steps, they spotted me. Aunt Chui wiped her tears and embraced me, asking, "Yinin, What brings you here? Indeed, Zhu Wensui. You wish to return this jinx, don't you? Not a chance. I assure you, we do not want her. Cast her out into the streets. My mother scolded vehemently, slamming the door with a loud bang. Uncle carried me downstairs, while Aunt Shui quietly sobbed behind us. Once back in the car, the atmosphere was stifling. Uncle's back was hunched again. He must be quite troubled. Where would he find 80,000 yuan? Perhaps I am not a fortunate star after all. For why else would Uncle look so pitiful? How about we buy a scratch-off lottery ticket and give it a try? Who knows, we might win again, Uncle suddenly exclaimed, clapping his hands and turning to smile at us. His smile was weathered, akin to the ancient crevices of the earth, feigning strength beneath its surface. Aunt Shui sighed. Let us go home. Standing around is pointless. Delivering packages can earn us some money. Oh, come on, why go home? Let us buy a scratch-off first. We have our lucky star with us. Uncle pinched my cheek playfully and pressed on the gas. We soon arrived at the lottery station. Uncle held me in one arm and guided Aunt Shui inside with the other. I sensed he was not merely here to buy a ticket. Rather, he seemed to be taking us out for a bit of fun. Watch closely. One ticket could work wonders. Uncle rubbed his hands together and scratched off a ticket, only to find he had not won. He laughed awkwardly. Aunt Shui rolled her eyes. Well, there goes 2 yuan. It would have been better to buy an ice cream. Uncle scratched his head and insisted that Aunt Shui try a ticket too. Though reluctant, she eventually scratched one off under Uncle's encouragement, but still no win. Now we were down 4 yuan. All right, darling, no more playing. Let us go home for dinner. Aunt Shui said soothingly, showing no anger, but rather comforting Uncle. I thought they were truly wonderful. Their dynamic was entirely different from my parents. Uncle nodded and led us home, but as we reached the door, he slapped his forehead. Eneen hasn't he scratched yet? Let her give it a try. Aunt Shui playfully smacked him and asked if I wanted to try. I nodded enthusiastically. I wanted to play. We turned back. The shopkeeper had been eyeing us, and as we returned, he pulled out a colorful scratch-off ticket. You all seem to have had a tough time. Try this one, it's a new kind. And you could win 100,000. The shopkeeper pointed to a stack of vibrant tickets. 100,000? What kind is this? Fortune arrives. A type that didn't exist before, the shopkeeper replied, cigarette dangling from his mouth. Aunt Shui urged me to pick one to scratch off. I stood on my tiptoes, drew a ticket and declared this one. Aunt Shui helped me scratch it open, her smile fading abruptly into shock. What happened? Uncle leaned in to see. With this kind of ticket, if you scratch off any number in the frame, you win, right? Let me check. 38? The number was indeed 38. The shopkeeper leaned over. Find the box that contains 38 and see what prize corresponds. Oh my! The shopkeeper gasped, his cigarette dropping into his lap. The prize for 38 was 100,000. All 3 adults stood in astonishment. The shopkeeper's pants were burned through by the cigarette. Uncle clutched the scratch-off, scrutinizing it multiple times, and Aunt Shui covered her mouth, tears brimming in her eyes. I knew we had money once again, 100,000. Uncle could take over that delivery station now. Oh my goodness. Eneen, my lucky star. Uncle finally snapped back to reality, lifting me up and showering me with kisses. His stubble tickled my cheeks, making me giggle. Aunt Shui could no longer contain her joy, tears streaming down her face. The shopkeeper was still fumbling with his pants. We scratched off several more tickets, but none were winners. Uncle decided to stop, happily exchanging the ticket for 100,000 yuan. Now, the delivery station in the south of the city belonged to us. Uncle said it was one of the best stations in the area, capable of earning at least 200,000 a year, and during peak times, 300,000 was not out of reach. I didn't fully grasp the numbers, but as long as he and Aunt Shui were happy, that was enough for me. The delivery station in the south of the city became our family's lucky star. Ever since Uncle took over, it flourished, with both incoming and outgoing parcel volumes increasing daily, earning over 40,000 each month. By late autumn, Uncle acquired another station, also in the south, which, although slightly less busy, could still yield over 300,000 annually. At the beginning of winter, we moved into a spacious new apartment, leaving behind our cramped old rental. This apartment boasted a bathroom, air conditioning, and even a balcony. If it weren't for Eneen, I wouldn't dare rent such an expensive place. Us menfolk aren't meant to live in luxury, Uncle said, beaming as he hoisted me onto his shoulders while cooking. At that moment, Aunt Shui entered with her phone, hesitating before speaking. My brother's daughter, Xiao Xiao, just turned 1. They're hosting a celebration at the hotel tomorrow. Should we go? Xiao Xiao was 1 already. How time flies. That means I am 7 now. Uncle grimaced. What's the point?
To be scolded?
Ening's household registration is still with my brother, and any schooling matters will require his assistance. If we don't go. Aunt Shui worried that I might miss school. Uncle sighed in resignation. Fine, let us go. The next day, we arrived at the hotel, the same one where my brother held his graduation banquet. It was bustling with guests, distant relatives gathering from far and wide. My parents had become quite affluent. Aunt Shui mentioned that they might possess assets worth several million now. My brother, having attended Peking University, was the pride of the family, which undoubtedly sparked envy among many relatives. I followed Uncle and Aunt Shui into the hotel. At 7, I had grown taller and fairer. Yet I still felt the same nervousness I had at 6. When Shui has come. Oh my, you've gained some weight. You must be earning quite well. A relative approached to greet us, which surprised me as no relative had ever spoken to Aunt Shui before. Not at all, still the same, Aunt Shui humbly replied. Who doesn't he know that you've opened 2 delivery stations? You must be making over $1 million a year now. You're quite wealthy. The relative laughed heartily. Then turned to me, complimenting, Ening has grown so beautiful. I hardly recognized her. I could scarcely believe someone would praise me, and I felt both astonished and shy. Hastily retreating behind Uncle. Uncle chuckled heartily, his gaze fixed ahead. My parents arrived. Father was dressed in a suit, while Mother wore elegant attire, cradling Qiao Qiao, who gazed at us with wide, innocent eyes, her face as fair as a princess from a fairy tale. My brother was notably absent. Aunt Shui took the initiative to greet them. Brother, sister-in-law, hello. Why did you bring her? Isn't that unlucky?
Mother pointed at me, visibly displeased.
Father remained silent, treating me as if I were a stranger. Uncle's temper flared. Who is unlucky? Some people are just curse themselves and accuse others of bad luck. Their mouths reeking of filth. Uncle unleashed the frustration he had bottled up for so long. All nearby relatives fell silent. Mother was taken aback, likely surprised by Uncle's outburst, daring to retort back. Her cheeks flushed, she erupted, Jiangjun, are you insulting me? Do you think just because you've made a little money delivering packages, you can puff up your chest? You wretched creature. You can't even have a child. My son attends Peking University, and soon Qiao Qiao will too. Mother's words were vicious, striking at Uncle's deepest wounds. Uncle and Aunt Shui had never been able to have children, let alone one attending Peking University. You shameless scoundrel. What do you think you are? My uncle rolled up his sleeves, his face flushed crimson. Chaos erupted at the banquet. Many children cried in fright, and Jojo was taken away by relatives. I was carried outside by Aunt Shui, her eyes red-rimmed. I gazed at my mother, who resembled a shrew, and at my father, who was shoving my uncle, and suddenly, I comprehended many things. I did not weep. Instead, I silently made a wish. I did not desire wealth for my parents, nor did I wish for my brother to attend Peking University. I wished for my uncle and aunt to possess immense fortunes, and for them to have many children. Jojo's full moon banquet had descended into utter disarray. Aunt Shui and I stood at the doorway, witnessing the turmoil. My father and uncle clashed, and no amount of intervention from relatives could halt them. My mother, with one hand on her hip and the other pointing at Aunt Shui, exclaimed, Zhu Wensue. You're something else, bringing your husband to stir up trouble, aren't you? You're just as much a disaster as that little calamity. Go to hell. Aunt Shui held me close. Her lips pursed in silence. As the situation spiraled further into chaos, my father's phone suddenly rang. He had no time to answer, and my mother shouted, Jiangjun, try moving another inch. If you disrupt my husband's business, I will make you pay. The call was likely from a business partner and of great importance. My uncle, panting heavily, was forcibly pulled away by 3 relatives. My father wiped the blood from his mouth, spat vehemently, and then pulled out his phone. My son is calling. The Peking University student, the Peking University student. My father raised his phone for my uncle to see, then intentionally switched to speakerphone mode. Son, what's wrong? Your mother and I are organizing a banquet for Jojo. When do you get a break? My brother's voice did not respond. Instead, a middle-aged man's voice came through. Is this Zhu Chuanfeng's family? We are from the Chaori District Police Station in Beijing. My father frowned. Police station?
What is it?
I am Zhu Chuanfeng's father. Silence fell over those around, all ears straining to listen. Zhu Chuanfeng was caught secretly filming girls under their skirts in the cafeteria at Peking University. It just happened. Please have your parents come down.
What?
My father's voice trembled, his face a mask of disbelief. The crowd erupted in an uproar. My mother lost all composure, seizing the phone and shouting, "Is this a scam call? Damn you and your entire family. What did you say? Mind your language. We are from the Chowri District Police Station." The officer was irate. My mother was about to continue her tirade when my father, quick as lightning, snatched the phone back, turned off the speaker, and hurried away while answering. Thus, Jojo's full moon banquet abruptly concluded. My parents left, and the relatives had no choice but to follow suit. Yet, everyone was abuzz with speculation, the topic naturally revolving around my brother's scandalous behavior. On the way home, I asked Aunt Chui, "What happened to my brother?"
Aunt Cui, visibly uncomfortable.
Shook her head in silence. My uncle attempted to chuckle, but merely shook his head. Zhu Chuanfeng has been spoiled. He was unruly as a child, allowed to do whatever he pleased as long as he excelled in his studies. Now, it seems his indulgence has led to trouble. Indeed. My brother could do anything as long as he performed well academically. A couple of days later, I overheard my uncle mention that my brother had been expelled from Peking University and would face 10 days of detention. My parents now walked with their heads held low, having exited the family group chat, where they once frequently shared their thoughts. Aunt Chui was reluctant to discuss these matters. She admonished my uncle, "Let others' affairs be. Let's focus on our own." "All right then," my uncle replied, brimming with determination. His business began to flourish remarkably. Curiously, the 2 delivery stations he had acquired were increasingly profitable, with substantial daily shipments, while others languished. By the following summer, when I was 7.5, my uncle, with a resolute heart, once again acquired 2 more stations. Aunt Chui expressed her concern. "Now we have 4 stations. How long have we been in this business? We cannot take such a big leap." A person's fortune is often determined within those pivotal 2 or 3 years. I am at a point where I must act, with Enine as our lucky star. We shall not incur losses. My uncle, though seemingly simple-minded, harbored grand ambitions. He proved to be right. All 4 stations turned a profit, each exceeding 400,000. This translated to an annual income of at least 1,600,000. I feel as if I am dreaming. How about you? Aunt Chui asked my uncle after tallying the profits. I feel the same. What about you? My uncle nodded, looking at me. I was rummaging through a KFC bucket. To be honest, the chicken breast at the bottom was quite unpalatable. I think the spicy chicken wings taste better, I remarked. Our family had become prosperous. I had blossomed into a more attractive version of myself. It seemed that every few months, I would grow a little taller. Aunt Chui thoughtfully bought me a dressing mirror, helping me adorn myself each day, praising my increasing beauty. I had little concept of beauty, but I felt taller, fairer, and plumper. That must be what beauty is. My uncle had recently purchased a BMW and started running his business, though I was unaware of what exactly he was doing. Aunt Chui no longer needed to work odd jobs. She stayed home with me, keeping everything spotless. At night, she and my uncle would whisper to each other, believing I was asleep, while I secretly listened. I heard my brother is not faring well. His company is in trouble. It seems Zhu Chuanfeng's incident has hit him hard. They discussed my parents. His line of work was already on shaky ground. He would only make a profit for a year or 2. My uncle now spoke with the air of a seasoned businessman. Now that we have money, we shouldn't invest recklessly. Let's buy a house first to give Enine a home. Sometimes they would talk about buying a house. Aunt Chui wanted to purchase one. My uncle contemplated if we buy, let it be a large flat, all at once. Preferably in the city center. A good school district is essential. The price is of little concern. We can easily manage the down payment. I often fell asleep while listening to their conversations. In a dazed state, I overheard them joking, "Shall we have another child so Enine can be an older sister? You are such a rascal." When autumn winds began to blow, Aunt Chui became pregnant. When they received the news, she and my uncle embraced, weeping tears of joy. I felt they would deeply cherish their child. I watched them with a smile. Aunt Chui, with tears streaming down her face, held me tightly, saying, "Enine, whether you have a little brother or sister, your aunt will love you as her own. Enine, your aunt and I have wanted a child for over a decade. You are as good as my own. Everything in this house belongs to you half," my uncle solemnly declared, as if fearing I might feel hurt. I was not saddened. Rather, I was delighted. As long as there are KFC chicken wings to eat, I'm happy, I giggled. After Aunt Chui's pregnancy, my uncle forced himself to focus on family matters. He also began considering arrangements for me. I have a friend in the police department. I've inquired about something. My uncle paced in the living room. Aunt Chui asked what he wanted to say. My uncle looked at me and said, "We need to transfer Enine's household registration here." She will be my daughter, taking her mother's surname. Aunt Chui was elated. Is that possible? It must be difficult, right? As long as your brother agrees. It should not be too hard. Let's go find my brother. My uncle and Aunt Chui set off with me once more.
On the way,
Aunt Chui made a phone call to inquire about my brother's whereabouts. It had been months since they last spoke. After hanging up, Aunt Chui sighed. It seems my brother is in dire straits. He has moved back to the old house, and the new large flat he bought is now up for sale. How unfortunate. When he moved into the new house, he didn't even invite us for a meal. We didn't even know where it was, my uncle muttered indignantly. No need to know. Let's head to the old house. Thankfully, it hasn't been sold yet, or they would have nowhere to live. We made our way to the old house. As I gazed at the familiar house and corridor, beads of perspiration began to form in the palms of my hands. Even after all this time, I remained fearful of this place. To be precise, it was the people here who instilled such trepidation in me. My uncle parked the Mercedes and came over to take my hand, while he and Aunt Chui each held onto one of my hands. Just as we were about to ascend the stairs, my father emerged. Clad in loungewear and slippers, his countenance was shadowed, and he appeared considerably thinner. Upon encountering us, my father's gaze immediately fixated on the Mercedes idling by the roadside. "Ah, June, is that your new car?" he inquired, shaking hands with my uncle. My uncle nodded, yes. "I bought it last month, trading in the previous BMW. You must be well off," my father remarked with a forced smile, then extended his hand to Aunt Chui. "Ah, Chui. It's been a while. You look lovely." "I'm not the one who looks lovely. It's Een who has blossomed. Just look at her," Aunt Chui said affectionately as she scooped me up in her arms. I had indeed grown taller, fairer, and my attire was considerably more appealing, with my hair neatly arranged. My father stared in astonishment, scrutinizing me for a while before recognizing me. "Indeed, it's Een. You've grown up. Come here for a hug," he said, extending his arms. Instinctively, I recoiled. He awkwardly scratched his head and invited us upstairs. Upon entering the house, an unusual odor wafted through the air. The home was in disarray, with surfaces cluttered and takeout strewn about haphazardly. "Your sister-in-law is coaxing Xiao Xiao to sleep. Let us sit in the living room," my father suggested as he poured us tea. I scanned the once familiar abode, yet found no trace of the warmth I once knew. The only familiar sight was the door to my brother's study, which remained firmly shut. Suddenly, it creaked open. My brother emerged, his hair a disheveled mess, scratching his sagging belly, his eyes bleary. He had gained at least 30 pounds, and his demeanor was lethargic, with remnants of sleep still clinging to him. From within his room, the sounds of video games echoed. "Finally decided to come out? All you do is play games, not even bothering to sleep. You're such a waste," my father berated him upon sighting him. My brother let out a dismissive tsh, stifling a yawn as he went to pour himself some water. And then he noticed us. His response was indifferent upon seeing my uncle and aunt, but his expression changed upon spotting me. I sat quietly, my hair styled in twin ponytails, clad in a white dress, appearing quite demure. My brother studied me in silence for a considerable time. Aunt Chui stood up, Chuan Feng. "This is Een. Don't you recognize her?" "Een," my brother murmured, his gaze drifting away momentarily before returning to me. He scrutinized me with a complex smile. "Sister is back, and you've become so beautiful." I grasped Aunt Chui's hand, my head bowed. My brother let out a nervous chuckle, neglecting his water, and hurried back to his study as if fleeing from something. My uncle then broached the serious matter at hand. He and Aunt Chui intended to formally adopt me, and with my father's consent, it would be feasible. Before my father could respond, my mother burst into the room. "You want to transfer Een Yin's household registration?" "That's out of the question. Een Yin is our precious daughter." "Absolutely not," my mother asserted, her tone resolute and domineering. She had lost considerable weight, but still exuded a fierce demeanor, her eyes brimming with avarice. She sought to exploit me for profit. My uncle, incensed, retorted, "Your precious daughter? Is she only your precious daughter now? Is that a problem? Jiang Jun, don't think you're something special just because you have a bit of money. It's just a delivery business. You might make $1 million, but our company will surely weather this storm and make tens of millions." My mother remained haughty, looking down on my uncle and Aunt Chui. Even in this moment, my uncle, enraged, stood up, and Aunt Chui quickly intervened. "Let us not argue. Allow me to speak." She turned to my mother. "Sister-in-law, I understand that you are facing difficulties. How about this? I'll give you 100,000 if you allow Een Een to transfer her household registration." My mother's eyes sparkled, exchanging a glance with my father. My father immediately interjected coldly, "No, no. Ineen is our biological daughter. We will not sell her." His attitude shifted dramatically, aligning with my mother's stance. "For heaven's sake, do you have any shame? You abandoned Ineen for so long, and now she is your biological daughter?" My uncle cursed vehemently.
Tiangyun.
"Try saying that again. You're nothing but a delivery guy. You have no right to scold me." My mother retaliated, kicking over the tea. I shrank back, covering my ears. Tears streamed down my face, not from fear, but from anguish. After half an hour of heated argument, Aunt Chui finally relented, directly asking, "How much do you want?" My mother feigned ignorance, while my father held up 5 fingers. 50,000 for Ineen. Are you out of your mind? My uncle's face flushed crimson with anger. Aunt Chui hugged me tightly. "All right." I wept profusely, watching my parents' faces blur in my vision. 50,000. Ineen was no longer theirs. I obtained a new household registration. Although my schooling remained unchanged, I felt as if I had been reborn. Aunt Chui learned to drive and purchased a Mini, driving me to school each day. Upon my exit from the car, she would tidy my hair, adjust my collar, and compliment my beauty. I came to understand the meaning of beautiful, as I often received love letters from young boys, who, despite being mere elementary school students, displayed a lack of shame. As winter break approached, I turned 8. Aunt Chui took me out for steak, and my uncle was late. We both glared at him. He pleaded for forgiveness, and then excitedly pulled out his phone to show us pictures. "Wife, Ineen, what do you think of this house? I've been searching for months and finally found this one. It wasn't easy." My uncle had been talking about buying a house for a while, but it had taken him until now to settle on one. "It looks great. Although it's secondhand, it's quite new and well decorated." Aunt Chui's eyes sparkled. I liked it too, as I spotted a lovely nursery inside, complete with a cradle. "When a brother or sister is born, they can sleep here." I pointed at the nursery, glancing at Aunt Chui's slightly rounded belly. "Then this is the one. We'll buy it tomorrow." My uncle, brimming with confidence, decisively waved his hand. The next day we purchased it, and I had a new home. With a new home came the need for a celebration. Aunt Chui wished to host it at home to save money, but my uncle protested vehemently. "What nonsense. Are you going to clean up the mess? We're going to a hotel. It must be done there." Aunt Chui shot him a knowing look, aware of his desire to impress, and acquiesced. After sending out invitations, relatives eagerly responded, promising to attend. The night before, I bought a new outfit, courtesy of Aunt Chui. She had me try on various combinations for what felt like an eternity, until I was exhausted. "Ineen looks good in anything. Let us go with this one." Aunt Chui finally decided, exasperated yet amused. She was greedy, hoping the next outfit would be even more stunning. As I gazed at my reflection, I felt particularly cool in my pink fluffy jacket, my black shoes, and my ponytails. Yes, I was quite cool now. The housewarming banquet commenced. My uncle was in high spirits, radiant with pride, greeting every friend and family member at the door, each one showering him with compliments.
Aunt Chui,
dressed in an expensive coat that concealed her pregnant belly, greeted the guests with a smile. I followed her, extending greetings to the guests. "Ineen is truly beautiful. You've raised her so well. It's only been a few years. It's clear that a daughter flourishes under wealth. Wen Chui is fortunate. This daughter is splendid." Each person praised me, causing me to momentarily lose my composure. I recalled how they used to shower compliments on Qiao Qiao. Qiao Qiao, my sister, was the most beautiful. I smiled and thanked everyone. Aunt Chui tended to the guests and pulled me towards the entrance to find my uncle. "Darling, who hasn't he arrived yet?" Aunt Chui inquired. "Except for your brother. Everyone has arrived," my uncle remarked with a slight grimace. Chui Gu remained silent, lost in thought. Just then my parents and brother showed up. My brother had thinned down, sporting a short haircut, wearing glasses, and dressed quite appropriately. He had undergone a significant transformation. My parents seemed to be in better spirits. No longer appearing as despondent as before, perhaps the 500,000 had alleviated their burdens considerably. Qiao Qiao was being carried by my mother, her head peeking out, revealing a pair of bright, shiny eyes observing us. When our gazes met, she looked at me curiously, emitting indistinct sounds. At 2 years old, she had begun to articulate a few words. I found her as lovely as ever, with her fair complexion, yet I too felt beautiful, sharing that same pallor. "Brother, you've come?" Chui Gu approached to greet him, her warmth barely concealed, adhering to basic politeness. My father chuckled. "He is here." My mother fixed her gaze upon me, her throat constricting. "Is she Ineen?" Indeed. Don't you recognize her? My uncle's tone dripped with sarcasm. My mother pressed her lips together, letting out a dismissive humph. As she lifted Xiao Xiao and planted a kiss on her, "Of course I recognize her. She is my dear daughter." She kissed her vigorously. My father cleared his throat, pulling my brother closer, a hint of pride on his face. "I've brought Chuan Feng too. He is doing remarkably well now, writing scripts for the television station. Officially employed." Yes, Chuan Feng has secured a position. He needn't worry about employment anymore. Having a stable job is preferable. No matter how many millions one earns outside, it's always unsettling. With a stable position, one can rest easy for life, my mother boasted, subtly mocking my uncle. He snorted coldly, and the atmosphere shifted dramatically. My brother seemed detached, his focus solely on me. Finally, he uttered an incongruous statement. "It appears that Een is indeed our lucky star. Without her, our family would have crumbled." What nonsense are you spouting? My mother erupted, as if struck in a vulnerable spot. My father's expression soured, offended by my brother's words. My brother fell silent, standing there in stillness. The banquet continued. My uncle and Chui Gu ignored my parents' family, attending to others instead. The atmosphere was jovial, filled with cheer. After a few rounds of drinks, a relative suggested visiting our new home, lest the trip be in vain. My uncle readily agreed. "Let us all head to my place after feasting. A housewarming celebration is best enjoyed with a crowd." After the gathering, numerous relatives set off for our home, followed by my parents and brother. Jiang Jun has made quite a fortune running a delivery station. He even bought a new house, though it's probably mortgaged, my mother remarked, intentionally. No one responded to her. She then pulled a woman aside, chattering away. "We sold our large flat, and now have quite a bit of money. We're not looking to start a business anymore, just planning to buy a new house for retirement." Why sell a large flat if you're not starting a business? That place was splendid, the relatives questioned, perplexed. My mother felt embarrassed, mumbling something about debts, suggesting a smaller house for retirement would suffice. Yet, she was met with silence again. Finally, we reached our destination. As we entered the community, my mother exclaimed, "Isn't this rose garden? Our previous large flat was right here." Indeed, what a coincidence. The relatives marveled. When my mother purchased the large flat, she had invited all relatives for a meal, except for my uncle and aunt. They too were astonished. What a coincidence. However, a greater surprise awaited. Our new home was the very one my parents had sold. The transaction had been conducted through a real estate agent, so neither party had met face to face. All the relatives were left dumbfounded. My mother's face flushed crimson as she stood at the door, cursing, "Jiang Jun, Zhu and Sui, you despicable creatures, deliberately trying to humiliate us, aren't you? You vile creatures, you've doomed your lineage." My mother's curses were harsh, and my father's expression darkened. My uncle, infuriated, kicked my mother down. "Try cursing again." Chui Gu hurriedly intervened, loudly explaining, "We had no idea this house was yours. You didn't invite us for your housewarming." "Shut up, you shameless woman. Now that you have money, you're arrogant, aren't you? I'll burn your house down. You think you can bully me, right?" My mother, in a frenzy, shouted and cursed. The relatives had to step in to restrain her, but she was truly out of control, biting anyone who tried to stop her. My brother suddenly intervened, forcefully pinning my mother down. She froze, gasping for breath on the floor. "Chui Gu didn't bully us. My job at the television station was arranged by her. Otherwise, do you think they would hire someone who secretly recorded girls' skirts?" My brother spoke gravely. My mother stiffened further. My father looked at Chui Gu in astonishment. Chui Gu's eyes reddened as she shook her head sorrowfully. "Chuan Feng, if you can change for the better, that would be wonderful." My brother remained silent, his eyes filled with tears. Both my parents fell quiet. After a long moment, my mother suddenly shouted, "Where's Xiao Xiao?" Chaos erupted, for Xiao Xiao had vanished. I raised my hand. "I'm here." In the midst of the earlier turmoil, Xiao Xiao had been frightened to tears, and I had brought her inside. "Zhu Een. You plague. Don't touch Xiao Xiao." My mother lunged at me, snatching Xiao Xiao away. Her shoulder knocked me over. Dizzy, I struggled to rise.
Kuigu,
In a panic, lifted me, while my uncle prepared to confront my mother again. I shook my head, regaining clarity. I stared directly at my mother, at her furious visage. It was a face that filled me with profound terror. 2 years had passed, yet the nightmare lingered, unshakable. "You little monkey, ugly and dark, get away. Look at yourself. How could I have given birth to such a thing?" You're a plague, a harbinger of misfortune. It's all your fault our family is so impoverished. Each word, every sentence, crashed violently into my young heart, never ceasing. 2 years, for years, 6 years, 8 years. How long would this torment endure? Thus I spoke, Mom. I've come to understand something. My mother paused, furrowing her brow at me. All the relatives fell silent, gazing at me in astonishment, at this tender child. I declared, Mom, I'm not a harbinger of misfortune. I am a lucky star. My mother scoffed. What nonsense are you spouting? Did your aunt teach you that?
Ha ha ha.
That's laughable. I realized it all by myself. I stood up from Chuegu's embrace, walking towards my mother, my small frame now taller than when I was crouching. Mom, it was I who wished for you and Dad to grow richer. It was I who wished for my brother to be accepted into Peking University on the very day my sister was born. I looked at my brother. He met my gaze, his chest heaving, his lips trembling. Brother, the bread you gave me wasn't tasty, so I poked a toothpick into it and made a wish. Mom, Dad, and you all got your wishes fulfilled. I finally expressed what I had been pondering for so long. My voice was youthful, yet my suppressed emotions were grave. I was a lucky star, not a harbinger of misfortune. Tears streamed down my brother's face, I know. I found her diary in the storage room. You wrote it all down. I'm sorry, Neen. With that, he turned and walked away without looking back. The relatives exchanged glances. My parents' expressions shifted dramatically. My uncle approached, ruffling my hair and lifting me into his arms. Eneen truly is a lucky star, do you all know? On the very first day we welcomed her, we won 50,000. Later, when we needed money to take over the delivery station, Eneen helped us win another 100,000. She wishes for me to have more money every day, which is why we're thriving. By the way, with Eneen's good fortune, my wife is pregnant. My uncle announced proudly and excitedly. The crowd turned to Chuegu. Ah, Chui is pregnant? Why didn't you say so? Yes, I am. I plan to wait until after the baby is born to announce it. Chuegu shed her coat, revealing her pregnant belly. We are all immensely grateful to Eneen. Had it not been for her, we would still be toiling in our rented accommodation. Chuegu wiped the corners of her eyes with emotion and smiled. Thus, to repay Eneen, this house will be registered in her name. We are purchasing it for her. Chuegu's revelation took me by surprise, as I had been completely unaware of this matter. The relatives erupted in astonishment, followed by a wave of sentiment. My mother could scarcely believe it. You purchased a house for her? For this calamity? If not for her, then for whom? Eneen is as dear to me as my own daughter. Not only shall I bestow this house upon her, but I shall also ensure she receives half of the family estate in the future. We, simple folk, only know the value of money, whatever fortunes we amass. Eneen will receive her share. My uncle spoke with a commanding and unwavering tone, declaring his intentions before all the relatives, eager for everyone to witness his pledge. The relatives stirred with excitement, exclaiming, Jun is a true man, splendid. My parents' faces turned pale, their spirits deflated, leaving them momentarily speechless. Everyone's gaze turned towards them, as though anticipating further antics. My father, unable to endure the humiliation any longer, shot me a quick glance before hastily taking my mother and leaving. My mother cradled the bewildered Xiao Xiao, her weary eyes devoid of the earlier fervor. She looked at me, and I retreated into my uncle's embrace until my parents slipped away in defeat. The events of that day created quite a stir, sending ripples through the family. Suddenly, I became the envy of all, regarded as a fortunate star. I received numerous red envelopes from relatives, who claimed they had forgotten to gift me in previous years and were now making amends. What a bunch of sycophants. Now they remember to give me red envelopes. My uncle remarked while counting the money, intending to treat it as my pocket money. Chuegu appeared somewhat dispirited, weighed down by sadness. For after today, her relationship with my parents was irrevocably severed, and they would no longer have any dealings with one another. Perhaps it was precisely this estrangement that shielded our family from misfortune henceforth. Each day flourished with prosperity. The following summer, my sister was born. This marked my uncle and Chuegu's first child, named Jiang Lele. To my surprise, she resembled me in my childhood, dark and slender, with tiny eyes that seemed perpetually closed. Spending most of her time asleep, I felt a pang of sympathy for her. Though I was merely 9, I aspired to be a responsible older sister. My uncle and Chuegu, in turn, expressed concern for me, questioning why I invested so much thought into my sister when we had a nanny. She's small. I can't help but worry, I replied. When I was little, no one worried about me. Now that my sister was small, I had to worry for her. My uncle and Chuegu exchanged glances and held me tighter. By the time my sister turned 3, she was no longer as dark, her eyes had grown larger. And she had become quite lovely. Meanwhile, I was now in middle school, 12 years of age. It was in this year that I truly blossomed. Standing at 165 centimeters, with fair skin and cascading black hair, dressed as befitting a child of affluence, I resembled a little princess. Chuegu could not help but praise me. What was that line of poetry? In 1,000 years. There's no beauty that can rival a captivating woman. I nearly burst into laughter. Although Chuegu had only completed elementary school, she possessed a great fondness for literature and had been studying it in recent years, often delighting others with her eloquent humor. I learned a line too. Everyone speaks of the joys of having children. Yet little do they know that children hasten the aging of parents. Chuegu understood the sentiment behind the verse and affectionately ruffled my hair, calling me a fool. On my birthday that year, my uncle opened a bank account specifically for me. Eneen, you are growing up. We're starting to save for you, depositing 30,000 each month until you graduate from university. You can use this money as you please. My uncle remained as generous as ever. He now owned 7 stations, had invested in 2 restaurants, and opened a luxurious bathing establishment, earning 5 to 6 million annually. I accepted the card, feeling like a small adult. That same year, I received news of my long-lost parents. A distant relative conveyed the information to Chuegu. My brother and sister-in-law have had another boy. After Xiao Xiao's father left home years ago and never returned, they grew anxious and decided to have another boy. Now Xiao Xiao is an elder sister. Chuegu sighed deeply. My uncle scoffed. How can they afford to have another child? Do they really need a son to inherit their dilapidated house? They sold the old house. Now they're renting in the old neighborhood, just where we used to live, Chuegu sighed. Impressive, my uncle remarked, raising a thumb. I listened quietly. In my 3rd year of middle school, our school organized a visit to a nursing home to spend time with the elderly. The nursing home was adjacent to the old neighborhood, and standing at its entrance, one could see sprawling, dilapidated houses. We, a group of vibrant students, caught the attention of several scruffy children peeking from the alley nearby. Among them, a girl of about 7 or 8, wearing noticeably ill-fitting clothes and carrying a 2-year-old boy on her back, curiously watched us. I studied her, noting her large eyes and small lips, and a sense of familiarity washed over me. Her complexion should have been fair, yet it appeared dry and slightly cracked, lending her cheeks a ruddy hue that detracted from her beauty. In stark contrast, the boy on her back was exquisitely adorable, with a chubby, fair face and impeccably clean clothes, clearly well cared for. I jogged over to them. The girl flinched and shrank back in fear. What is your name? I inquired. I am Zhu Qiao Qiao, she replied, her voice hoarse. Zhu Qiao Qiao. My heart tightened. Qiao Qiao, my once beautiful sister. She should be 8 now, while her brother is 2. Yet, they seemed like children from entirely different families. Qiao Qiao had become so unattractive, while her brother was so charming. I opened my mouth, overwhelmed with 1,000 unsaid words. I realized that Qiao Qiao was no longer the fortunate star. She had transformed into my calamity, while her brother had become the new beacon of hope. I retrieved 200 yuan from my backpack and offered it to Qiao Qiao. Startled yet thrilled, she hesitated to accept. Your lips are cracked. Go buy some water, I urged, pressing the money into her hands. Finally, she accepted it, bowed slightly, and dashed down the alley. Upon returning home, I felt dejected, my thoughts consumed by Qiao Qiao. Chuegu immediately sensed my unease and inquired about my troubles. I hesitated to speak, but my uncle, who had just returned with Lele, also asked what was wrong. Lele rushed towards me, arms outstretched, exclaiming, Sister, sister.
Today,
A boy at kindergarten said, he likes me. Of course, Lele is so pretty. It's only natural for boys to like you, I said, pinching her cheek, feeling as though I had already grown into an adult. After dinner, I confided in my uncle and aunt about Qiao Qiao. They both sighed heavily. Chuegu, with her kind heart, suggested, why not adopt Qiao Qiao as well? We certainly have the means. My uncle sought my opinion, and I nodded vigorously. He then asked Lele, who, in her innocent confusion, replied, another sister?
yay.
The next day, my uncle and aunt set out to find my parents and did not return until the afternoon, accompanied by a timid little girl, Qiao Qiao. She appeared flustered, her face flushed with anxiety, her head bowed. She resembled me so much. I rushed over to embrace her. And for reasons unknown, tears streamed down my face. Her parents demanded 880,000, not a cent less, my uncle stated. Chuegu gave him a gentle nudge, and then turned to me, whispering, money is not the most important thing. We initially wanted to adopt Xiao Jun, but his parents absolutely refused. They only want a son to care for them in their old age. Poor Xiao Jun. Indeed, Xiao Jun was also a pitiable case. He had become the last remaining fortunate star in that family. 28 after Jojo joined our family, she felt lost for a long while. She was more mature and sensible than I was, fully aware of her identity, which made her approach everything with great caution. She believed herself to be a harbinger of misfortune, once weeping as she expressed her fear that her existence had led to our parents' bankruptcy, worrying that her uncle and aunt might also face financial ruin. Aunt Chui was immediately moved to tears. Her uncle waved his hand dismissively, declaring, what nonsense about being a disaster. You and Enine are both blessings. His words soon proved prophetic, as his latest investment yielded a substantial return of 800,000.
Ha!
What a blessing. When Enine arrived, I started from scratch, and now with Jojo here, I'm reaching new heights. He boisterously proclaimed, ensuring Jojo could hear him. Jojo pretended to be engrossed in her book, yet she perked up her ears, listening intently to our family's conversation. I noticed a smile finally break across her face. I smiled too. The bond between us sisters deepened, and soon we were sharing a bed every night, exchanging amusing anecdotes from school, discussing which boys were handsome, and admiring the lovely hair of certain girls. Jojo never cried again. That was until my senior year in high school, when my father was imprisoned due to his violent behavior stemming from alcoholism. Aunt Chui mentioned that ever since my parents squandered our family's 880,000, they had lived extravagantly without saving, spending wildly, and indulging in numerous vices.
Now,
the money was long gone, their vitality diminished, and my father was locked away while my mother drifted through life, working odd jobs. As for my younger brother Xiao Jun, he had long been taken by our grandmother in the countryside, where he would likely lead a simple and arduous life. Jojo cried for a long time, but she said nothing. I held her close, remaining silent as well. When Jojo entered middle school, I was accepted into Peking University. This was a matter of great pride for our family, akin to my brother's achievements. Naturally, we had to host a grand celebration. Aunt Chui invited my mother, but she did not attend, and Aunt Chui could not even locate her. My brother, however, had heard the news. Somehow, he learned of my acceptance and reached out to Aunt Chui, sending a gift. Your brother is not doing well. He works while also freelancing as a writer, referring to himself as a sewer rat, destined to live in the shadows, never to see the light of day. Aunt Chui lamented as she handed me my brother's present. Upon opening it, I found my childhood diary and a red envelope filled with cash. He had written on the envelope, I wish I could buy you a birthday cake, but I'm far away. Here is the money for 18 years' worth of cake. I touched the crumpled bills, recalling the day I turned 6 when only my brother remembered my birthday, throwing me a tasteless piece of bread. How swiftly time passes. 29 after the graduation celebration, my uncle offered to take me to purchase a new laptop for college. I climbed into his Maybach. He teased, young lady Enine, may I be your chauffeur? I hope you don't mind. Not at all. I wish you abundant wealth, uncle. I clasped my hands together, exclaiming, Amen. My uncle laughed heartily as he drove me to the store. Suddenly, he slammed on the brakes, but still collided with a woman who had unexpectedly darted in front of the car. The woman let out an exaggerated scream, throwing herself onto the hood, crying out, It hurts. Help.
you hit me.
Damn it, a scammer. My uncle grumbled, getting out of the car. Intrigued, I followed suit. Help. He hit me. My back is broken. She wailed, pounding on the hood. My uncle grabbed her by the arm. Do you dare to mess with me? Are you looking for death?
Look.
He is threatening me. He is hitting me. The woman cried, raising her voice, but her words abruptly ceased. My uncle stood there, stunned. For it was my mother. The mother I had not seen in 3 years. My heart tightened and then relaxed as I stood there, calm as a leaf falling from a phoenix tree. My mother's disheveled hair danced in the wind as she glanced at my uncle and then at me, her filthy throat quivering. I averted my gaze. My uncle clicked his tongue, seemingly at a loss for words. He pulled out his wallet, tossing a few bills at my mother. Is this enough? Now get lost. She caught the money, her eyes lighting up, repeatedly bowing in gratitude. Okay, I'll go take care of myself. She hurried away. I stood by the car, watching her run behind a distant tree to hide. I got back into the car with my uncle. He hesitated, finally letting out a sigh, driving in silence. As we passed the tree, I glanced outside and saw my mother leaning against it, clutching the money, tears streaming down her face. The car drove away, taking her further from me. 30 after graduating from university, I pursued my master's and then my doctorate, immersing myself in the sea of knowledge. Whenever I had the chance, I would visit impoverished areas. This was JoJo's initiative. Now in college herself, she was always concerned about the children in these regions, especially the girls. Sister, let us establish schools in the impoverished areas, particularly for girls. JoJo, now a fashionable young woman, expressed her desire. I asked her what inspired this notion. Her expression darkened. In those impoverished areas, many girls are seen as calamities, burdens, much like we were in our youth. Her words struck a chord within me, as if distant memories surged forth, swirling chaotically in my mind. Indeed, how many calamities and burdens exist in this world? I embraced her tightly, nodding in agreement. Absolutely. May we sisters be the last of the disasters and the last of the burdens. May every girl in the world be a perpetual blessing, a forever lucky charm.